Did you ever have to laugh when you feel like crying? Who feels it most? Did you ever have to live when you feel like dying? Who feels it most? Did you ever see time when hardship and pain, denial and strain has made you to stay sunshine or rain? Did you ever have to go when you felt like staying? Who feels it most? Can you understand?
Very pleasant good morning, and greetings. I am Terrence Baines, and this is Who Feels It Knows It, here on Tambourine Radio 92.7, Uptown Scarborough, right next to the salmon tree, I tell you. And of course, this program is held under the auspices of the Tobago People's Party. And you are aware we are on the cusp of an election, and the purpose of the program primarily is to put some information in the space, because we believe that this voting business is something that we must engage intelligently, and information always helps. It always helps. They say that the more you are informed, the better you are able to perform. So we hope that you would, when you go to perform your franchise on April 28th, that performance will be for the Tobago People's Party, and we have been putting the information in the space so that you can interact with that information, and it represents the reason why you should place your X next to the anchor. In Tobago East, our offering is Mr. David Thomas, and of course in Tobago West, Mr. Joel Marcus Sampson. So we are going to be talking this morning with the secretary for, listen, this division name is long, and I blame my inability sometimes to remember on age. Amen. Praise the Lord. And it's age is a thing that you could use as an excuse from time to time. So the secretary is here, looking as splendiferous as usual, and she's the secretary in charge of food security and fisheries and the environment and all kinds of stuff. She's been doing a fantastic amount of work, and we are so glad to have her. Secretary, good morning.
Good morning to you, Assemblyman.
Yes.
Thank you, Radio Tambourine, for having me this morning.
Right. When I see you come through the door, I remember the first time I went on a radio program, so I was dressing up and putting on nice clothes, and the man told me, he said, Pastor, they can't see you through the radio. But these days, with the advent of technology, we live on Facebook and we live on YouTube as well. So people could see you that are not making any joke, and not trying to mama guy, that you're really looking fantastic. So, you understand, a blind man could see that.
Thank you.
Yes. So, Secretary, so much has been happening. I mean, we have a short election campaign upon us and so on. And I know you've been doing a lot of work as it relates to the campaign, as it relates to, putting strategies in place, because we want to be successful at the polls come the 28th. We had a discussion on Tuesday, I believe it was, with Secretary Morris. We were talking about cost of living in Tobago. And when we talk about cost of living, food has to be a frontline item that feeds into this cost of living conversation. So it is perhaps useful for us to start to ventilate it from your perspective when you talk about the division that you have leadership over and the work that you have been doing to try and treat the food security issue on the island of Tobago. So I want you to begin to talk about that, and then we'll make a correlation to the general cost of living in Tobago and why people should vote a particular way, because that is the direction that we want to go into.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And it's an interesting topic. Why I say interesting, because when you talk about food security,
Right.
you really need money to make a particular investment, a type of investment,
Indeed.
in order to spur economic activity.
Yes.
And I've always been open with the general public about the allocation under my division. And of course, you have the recurrent budget and the development budget.
Yes.
And anything for development, I have literally no money. I'm in the minus. So I met it in the minus.
Right.
So given about 24 million and you need 27 million and in order to pay development workers.
Yes.
So basically you're in the minus.
Right.
So you have to request funds from the Division of Finance in order to make up the difference in order to pay the workers, right? And it's an interesting type of arrangement because, workers are usually hired under the recurrent budget.
Right.
But now you have the development, what you're supposed to be using to develop infrastructure and all these things for projects. So I have no money. So
right.
that's you have to start off there.
Yes.
So a division with no money for development,
right.
How do you move towards securing the future of Tobagonians as it relates to food security? And we inherited some companies in the minus again. And you would think that we had those companies because I think you had a cassava company, you had a fish Fipcut, you had Tico Suave, and you would have thought that you would have met some funding there. Right. And you met none.
Right.
We didn't have any documents to follow up. They're still missing. Right. So, taking a company in the minus again because you had to pay wages which far exceeded the subvention that they get. Right? So how do you run a company knowing that you have no money to send to them for subvention, and then you have no money internally to run your development program? Right. And that is why I said it's out of hard work, preparing all the necessary documents and being able to justify to your colleagues around the table why you would need funding for your division. And that is what we have been doing. As it relates to the companies, they have been moving towards activities that spur economic development on the island. And take, for example, the Capital of Paradise. Decades, you had the company Fipcut, but decades, nobody knew about the Capital of Paradise. No accountability was required at that time, or demanded, I should say, at that time. And now everybody could see the vessel. You're hearing that you were making revenue. Right. And that is not by chance, because we knew the circumstances under which we had to govern. So you had to think outside the box. What resources, what assets you had. And you had to employ those assets to finally make money. Right? And keep that money in Tobago. Right. So that was
which is a critical point. Yes.
And that is why we had the Shore Park Food Hub. That's another space that we could rent out to make some revenue. Right? And we bought equipment. Same thing. You're advertising the bucket truck, you're advertising different equipment to make money. Because the companies understand that the division didn't have money to send to them.
Yes.
And under the division, we had to more or less look at, put a policy in place in order to secure food security and look at other aspects of food security because you have agro-ecotourism. So you looked at that as a type of investment there. And when I say agro-ecotourism, we try to have a lot of activities by the food hub, right? We have a lot of events surrounding the main ridge, and very soon you'll have the same thing with Little Tobago. So we're trying to market Tobago, market those local vendors, what they have to offer to Tobago, so that they can make some money with the space is being utilized under the division.
So, Secretary, all this work that you have been doing since you took office, right? From your perspective, I don't know if you have the numbers to say what the food bill is on average, what you met, and the work that you have done, what impact that has had on the food import bill.
And that I should particularly state that even training for, because what we had is a sort of artisanal, outdated type of mechanism being used in agriculture. And that is why we have the company called TAGS, the technological company, so that we can introduce new methods to the farmers and the fisher folk and everybody else, so that we can improve on what they are doing. And food security isn't just about, you don't just plant and get just like that suddenly. You have to invest in the knowledge of how to cultivate scientifically, and that is why we said agriculture is a science and a business. So you have to train people on how to operate as a business, because central government introduced the procurement laws and all these things. So you have to train them on how to operate as a business, and then you have to train them on how to farm scientifically, right? I'm sure that you might have bought any type of produce and you didn't get the quality that you like.
Sure. I buy tomatoes and I forget that outside red and inside green.
Correct.
Yes.
And I'm sure you might have visited a farm. I'm not sure if you're a person that grew up in farming like I did. My grandfather had over 40-something acres of land, and we were, all my parents were, and uncles and aunts, they were growing up on agriculture. So that is what we know. I grew up planting corn and peas with my daddy. I didn't have a choice. I had to wash down the pig pen. Yes. So, I mean, I accustomed to the old way of farming. And I'm sure you would have seen methods like people storing feed on by the pens, and that would encourage rodents. Food security is not about securing food alone. It's about farming scientifically to protect the consumer. So you have to train people on how to protect the consumer as well before you put things on the market.
Of course.
So all of that is part of the policy, shaping the policy, because you don't want to now sell to people and then they are not satisfied with what they are buying. Right.
So
And sorry, I should make the point that billions of dollars spent in importing food in Trinidad and Tobago, by the way. And we could take some of that and invest it in our local stakeholders, so that we too can be compete on the open market.
I mean, I know that in the national space there are lots of different incentives. There are lots of incentives for farmers, and so on. There are lots of injections that are made into the Ministry of Agriculture, and oftentimes we in Tobago do not get the benefit of some of these things. And if we do, it is so complex, you understand, with a lot of license that the Tobagonian farmer or fisherman need. We have to go to Trinidad and those kind of things. And now the reason why I'm asking you this question, and we're having this conversation, is to come to the place where we are saying that it seems as if we need a regime change to get at ease.
It is by design.
Yes.
And yesterday I had a conversation while I was in the field with someone, and they too agreed that it's by design. That the entire economy of Tobago was shut down in order to benefit the Trinidad economy. And I had to agree, because if you look at everything under agriculture that I inherited, it was totally run down. And then when you hear about the mishaps in the space, they're trying to blame this administration who now come into office.
Indeed.
So I know that Tobagonians understand what we're working with. We're working with zero. At least under food security is minus.
Right.
But you had to employ what they had currently. I mean, some are in this state of disrepair, some you can't use. Because it's some equipment, when you swab it, those in health will tell you have to discard of the machinery. Right? So all that ham you used to enjoy and all these things. If you swab a swab, you can't eat. If you eat and you have to think about the diseases, non-communicable diseases that you can get. So you just have to move out the equipment and buy again. So you see, so you're in a quandary as to what they were doing all the time with all the money that we had when we had all this oil and gas on the island, in the country. Right? And I have nothing against Trinidadians, but we also have Tobagonians here who want to be part of the national economy.
Of course.
Yeah?
Of course.
So the challenge is, how do we move forward when you recently heard about all the investments, these millions of dollars investments into all these companies in Trinidad? But in Tobago, they didn't make any provisions, you know. They even made provisions in a place called Bagatelle in Trinidad, some Bagatelle, and not in Tobago. Right. Or the packing house in Trinidad, big investment. Millions of dollars, nothing in Tobago. I still stuck with minus under the division. So I have to say, and I have to commend each and every worker in the companies, right? Across all the companies, across the division, for understanding, because we keep regular meetings. So the staff get to see what I have to work with, and they get to understand their skills, and we come together and creatively shape what we think we could do with what we have. Right.
So we are proposing to send 2 candidates under the auspices of the Tobago People's Party. I just keep using that word, you know, when I find a new word, I don't use it regular. Yes, right. The Tobago People's Party. David Thomas in the East, Joel Sampson in the West, with the hope that there will be some equity as it relates to the provisions that are made available for the development of agriculture. For us to see the manifestation of the scientific approach and the business approach to agriculture, which is certainly going to impact on the food bill. You understand? And I have noticed, you know, and I guess it is commendable of the work that you have been doing in the division and so on, that there's been a lot more agricultural activity over the last 4 years. I mean, I have gone up to Goldsboro, I passed the regular, I have seen the sale that is taking place. Sometimes they come down to the division of infrastructure and so on. I've seen the work that is happening with the URP agricultural program up in Roxborough and so on. So there is a shall I say a resuscitation of the agricultural sector. We're certainly not where we want to be, but we spend too much money on food.
We call it waking up the den.
Waking up the den.
And I'm happy for the partnerships,
yes,
because the Bleming sheep project that was shut down. When you go there was all kind of woodens and all kind of thing, poles just rusty and everything, and equipment parked up in bush. And now we have some activity going on, URP building back the pens, we have them building the feed troughs, right? When you had to do artificial insemination, is on the ground. The vets had to do it on the ground. And when you're talking about dealing with animals, because you have to consume animals,
of course,
right? We are now trying to move away from that type of, you know, outdated dinosaurian operation that they push to be going in.
Dinosaurial, I like that. I'm going to use that this week. Yes. Right? But truth is truth. And so the population must have an appreciation, should have an appreciation for who is on trial at this particular point. What are we actually prosecuting in this election campaign? We are prosecuting the performance of 2 MPs who are fully aware of these challenges that we are speaking about.
Are they fully aware?
They're fully aware.
They come and they see how the vets operate and do artificial insemination with animals on the ground. I think they're
let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase. They have a knowledge of the struggle that we are facing in Tobago as it relates to agriculture. And the thing is, they eat here, their families eat here.
Well,
yes, you know, because people go to the grocery here because you can't fight Trinidad for everything.
Correct.
I think there is a disconnect. You know, I said it, I believe it was yesterday before, that it is unfortunate that you have MPs that are supposed to represent the interests of the people of Tobago. They sacrifice that representation at the altar of political expediency. Correct. You understand?
Correct.
And so the people always at the bitter end of the stick.
Correct.
And they come back after 10 years and asking now for you to give them another opportunity. But they have proven that they do not represent the interests of the people. You hire them to do a job. You pay them well. You give them all the benefits of the job. You understand? You every now and again you try to remind them of what you hire them for. You understand? And you give them 10 years to do it.
Right.
And to me, it's no rocket science. You just say, okay, it had to be you do not have the capacity to do the work that they're paying you for. But we need to get the work done. 10 years later, we still can't get the kind of food security that we're going after. We still have too much high prices for food in Tobago. You understand? We're still seeing that there's an investment in agriculture and technology and science and resource, financial and otherwise, in the Ministry of Agriculture in Trinidad. You understand? Although they say the Prime Minister keep telling his ministers that they're the ministers of Trinidad and Tobago. How it is there is no bleed over, if that is the case. How it is the division of food security in Tobago could be functioning at a minus after 10 years. You understand? And we are supposed to vote these people. It seems maddening to me. It is offensive for them to even come and say that we should vote them back. So, I mean, I think that when we put this information in this space, we're trying to get people to interact with the realities. That you have been functioning from a minus place. And you know, as you said that a while ago, I thought when you said that stuff are in place by design, that I used to just think that the THA employs upwards perhaps of 75% of the workforce in Tobago. No country should function like that. That they systematically killed what is called a private sector, including things like agriculture and so on, so that they could have this dependency on the state. Yes, it is for political expediency. Yes. Again, so here you are. Meanwhile, the prices skyrocket. Anytime it have floods in Trinidad, that, you know, the prices going through the roof.
Correct.
And we consume so much of this stuff from Trinidad. And even with the resurrection of the dead in Tobago, the demand seemed to be so high because of the time we have been in abeyance. So I mean, to me, Secretary, this conversation should feed into the perspective that we have, and we try to share with the people of Tobago that you need to vote differently come the 28th, so that we could perhaps get food a little cheaper. You understand?
We have a responsibility for each other.
Yes.
Right? And 10 years of representation in the parliament, right? I mean, you could blame color. So let's say we're looking at party, yeah? But we would not have been in office 10 years ago, or the beginning of 10 years ago.
Right.
So it can't only be party, it has to be competency as well, right? I don't want to say it's funding, and you had both PNM in Trinidad and PNM in Tobago. Right. So you had an opportunity to shape an economy at that time.
Indeed.
And economies rise and fall, right? But we have not seen Tobago rising at any point. There's a gradual decline.
Yes.
Right? I'm thinking that having a voice in the parliament means more than just party.
Right.
It means more about people, your Tobago people. And understanding that agriculture is important to this island, the people of Tobago understand that it's important to them, and that investment should have been made decades ago. Right? Now we really started from scratch in the minus when we got in office. Right? And when I looked at the projects that the PNM had to do, as opposed to the projects that I have been doing, none of them had the cost that I, and I said, when I said the division of finance, because remember, I don't have no money to pay nobody, right? Miss Pantin and sort of a poor woman in a poor division, right? Yeah. So the chief secretary would have had to move around funds so that these projects could be funded. And if I had to fund a $40 million project, like they did with the market, and they didn't build it from scratch. They just changed some tiles and a few things, and it cost $40 million.
I'm telling you. That's the most expensive power wash in the history of human existence, you know.
Correct.
Yes.
Right, it didn't even have a sign, the haberdashery rain was still wetting people.
Yes.
So it you know, spending 40 million, you expected $40 million worth.
Yes.
But when I had to fix up the fish facility in Barbados Bay, right, it didn't even cost $2 million.
Right.
It was less than $2 million. It was 1 point something million. So if that was under the Red Brigade, you could imagine how much million, and Tobagonians clap and say, great. You had to think about Tobagonians for your own first.
Yes.
So think about $40 million. If I had $3 million, I could have refurbished the market. Right? And the balance of money could have done so much around the island.
Right.
Who knows?
Right.
I maybe use 20 and works get to fix some drains in my
course.
my
I swear to that.
But understand me.
Yes.
Right? Every single project that the PNM has done on the island, it's massive cost.
Yeah. They have a gift of buffinating numbers.
They have a gift of getting the funding from Trinidad somehow.
Yes. It's a
but
to me it's
passing the assemblymen into the Tobago House of Assembly like a full bus.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They can't know what's going on in the assembly. And they may not want to know because remember your party not in office in Tobago.
Right.
So you see how sad it is?
Yes.
But we know all of them.
Yeah,
we know them.
Yeah. And it is disturbing that we have seen that the funding is decreasing.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday Secretary James and I had a conversation, and he made a salient point about. I mean, the Prime Minister is the Minister of Energy and Energy Affairs, and perhaps one of the highest potential earner for Tobago is the quarry, right? We know that Guyana right next door has one of the most extensive need for the aggregate that comes out of the quarry there. And you will not spell the license to export. And Secretary revealed that they didn't want to give you the mineral license either. And the thing about it is that during the using the excuse that we have to pay royalties to the Ministry of Energy, but the regime before wasn't paying no royalties. So all of a sudden, because there's a regime change, you try to stranglehold and advantage us with this stuff of royalties. And the thing about it is that if we were able to get those licenses, it is certainly going to feed into the Tobago economy. You understand? And you might get a little more money to do some more work. Correct. But the whole thing, I concede, Secretary, that the whole thing is like a siege. You know, a siege is one of them ancient type of war machinery that they used to use, where they surround your city and surround it in a way that, you know, in ancient days, the city used to survive by trade and stuff. So traders come from and so you're in these walls, and if you surround the city and you clog up the wells, the water supply is finished, and then you prevent food from going in. So after a while, what is in the city will be consumed, and then when people start suffering from malnutrition and whatever else, they become easy prey. That is what they've been trying to do to Tobago, in my view. They try to shut off all the funding. They try to shut off all the opportunities, hoping that they will break the spirit of the Tobagonian. You understand? And then we become easy prey. And we say, well, all right, let me vote the PNM. But I think they have made a tremendous blunder, because there is a kind of fight that is in the Tobago people that has come to the fore in more recent times. And it started in 2021, where the people just said, listen, yes, this is, you know, and so this election come the 28th really is a completing of the circle. You understand? And for people who say, you know, well, we don't know what we go get. Whatever we could get from the 28th had to be better than what we get for the past 10 years. You understand? Yeah. So I am really hoping that the Tobago people can make an intelligent choice.
Yeah.
You know, people vote for different reasons, right? There are some people that have no interest in the political business. They have no interest in the voting process and these kinds of things. But these are days when information has to be one of the driving force behind what we're doing. You understand? And I know that you've been working with the candidate in the East. What are your thoughts on what you've been seeing in the East constituency?
Now, Tobagonians, for the most part, they understand the struggle, and we have to come together to make a decision. I say that might change the course of history.
Yes.
And I believe that David, as much as they want to talk about his stomach, he has been reaching all the hills and going down into the valleys as much as he can, given the short space of time that he had to work with.
Yes.
And I'm seeing Mr. Sampson doing the same. Right. But we have to come together in its collective thinking to understand that if they starve the divisions, they're not starving the divisions, and it's you they're starving to keep them in power.
Of course.
Right? The division isn't supposed to plant food. They're supposed to demonstrate to farmers, train farmers, empower farmers to produce food. It's an economy we building. Right? And by starving us, you're starving the Tobago people.
Sure.
That is the purpose of the division, to provide support for entrepreneurs.
Indeed.
Right?
Indeed.
So, Tobagonians, they have to understand that the change that we're looking for, that we're fighting for now, is for them.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I lost, one of my staff lost her husband, and I had to bear some of the pain of hearing her cry. And she has a son. And every time I think about what I do, I think about the children of Tobago. Right? That is what I think about. When I leave here, I don't expect to be in politics all my life. But whenever I leave here, I want to look back and say, I hope that the next person would move this from, from A to A plus.
Indeed.
That's the idea.
Indeed.
So David and Joel, they understand the assignment. And they have to be strong, right? They have demonstrated that they are strong so far. Joel had an opportunity to serve as an assemblyman, and he's always quick. Right? And David, he has proven himself in the fire service. So I am sure, and I'm quite certain, that I can fully endorse these gentlemen to go down there and represent us. And they feel they're going to the grocery. It's not like the selected PM. They go into the grocery in Tobago too, so they understand.
Yes, they know the price of things. They know the price of things.
Yes, they didn't write it in that speech and they repeated it.
They know the price of things.
So they understand how hard it is here. So when they go down there, they'll be able to speak on our behalf.
Right. I mean, it is. I have a better appreciation in more recent times for the meaning of the word representation. I mean,
tough thing, eh?
Yes. 60,000 Tobagonians can't go down to the parliament. You understand? So 60,000 Tobagonians make a choice of sending a representative. And that representative obviously would have to know what the Tobagonians want to get done. You understand? Right? And that representative must have the confidence that he or she, when they go, well, in this case, these two gentlemen, that you have the full backing of the people that send you.
Correct.
You understand?
Correct.
They are prepared to stand behind you and to support you every which way.
And yet they have the strength of the political leader and the executive.
Of course.
They're not there alone. They would be
yes.
surrounded by strong people, strong Tobagonians who understand the assignment.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not get it tied up, right? They're not alone, you know.
Yeah.
They have the resources here. They have us here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's all sending them down
Yes.
as the face, but
Yes.
they have the backing of us.
Right.
So they're not alone.
Indeed. And I remember the Chief Secretary said in one of his, I can't remember if it was Montgomery or Mason Hall, but I remember him saying that they must be assured that if any matter requires Tobagonians in mass to jump on the ferry and meet them in Independence Square or wherever.
Beautiful island of Trinidad.
Yes. And to me, that embodies what we're talking about when we're talking about representation. Because I am of the view, Secretary, that And we've seen it around the world too, that people who are seeking after self-determination, nobody gives it to you.
Nobody gives it to you.
You understand? There are times when in mass, collectively, you have to get up and do everything that is necessary to get what you're going after. You know, and while they are starving us of resources, and while they are mistreating us, and while they are disrespectful of our institutions here that are rooted in law, they still would not give us the opportunity to spread our wings and be all that we want to be.
Because that, I call it baby hands.
Yes.
A toddler ever grabs something and they're trying to get it out of the hand, and the hand tight.
Yes.
Right, they have baby hands, they don't want to let go.
Yes. It's amazing. And I think with the revelations that we have had in more recent times, I took a journey with Secretary James out to the Iris field, 9 miles off Castara. And then when you see those things and you check the other fields around, you understand why they try to foist this 6 mile thing on us.
Correct.
You know, people think they're playing smart with foolishness, you understand? And I am thankful that the average Tobagonian is getting themselves more appraised and being more aware of what is taking place in our space. We do not want anybody to come and do anything for us. We could do our things ourselves. We just are seeking the opportunity, the resource that is rightfully ours by law. We are not begging for nothing. Then we will develop the place for ourselves.
Correct.
We will carve out the kind of Tobago that we want to see that we have in our mind's eye. And so I believe that the phrase, the greatest little island, is not some vain rhetoric that we just use as a tag phrase, but really and truly it has resonated with me. I'm telling you that all that I am doing around the government and whatever else is that I really want to see the place better. Who wants to just come in a space, spend all the years, and you leave it the same place that you go?
I think if you dig down into their souls as well,
Yes.
the opposing party to Tobago, right? They also want the best for Tobago, but they pander into the party. Yeah, I mean, naturally, your home is Tobago, you must want it.
Yeah.
But you see the salary and the the alignment with them, and I think deep down inside they know the right thing, I think people don't have a moral compass.
I mean, sometimes, Secretary, to be virtually honest, I mean, every man had to have something that you stand for regardless of what, and you're willing to sacrifice whatever for that.
Right.
It has to have something about you, about something about you, Nathisha, Charles, Pantin, that if you cross that line there, you will get fight. And that is just it.
Yes.
You understand? And sometimes you tell yourself, these persons have, they say that the human conscience, if you train it well, you can become oblivious to the reality around you. You understand? The conscience is a slate that you put information on it and it convicts you, good or bad. You understand? And sometimes the kind of decisions that they make, because to us, it have to be, even if we understand the political system that we run in these parts, that you come into government with a political party and whatever, and so there is a certain amount of allegiance that you must have to do. We understand that. But there are some issues that require a kind of acid approach, and they require an exception, something different to the norm we have to stand for. And in the Tobago case, and it's not something that, in our view, that is aggressive or abrasive. We are just simply saying, you live here, right? You come to us, you say you want to represent us. We say, okay, we give you a chance. These are the things that concern us. We want to be able to live better in the Tobago space.
And you see why I'm asking is because food in particular and being nourished, it's all about your health. It's linked inextricably to health. And I'm sure they have families here.
Yes.
They have the children going to school perhaps here. Right? So you must want to make that type of investment in Tobago for your own family.
Of
right?
course.
How would you feel that some auntie of yours consuming something being brought in?
Yes.
Right? And they're developing cancer. I have 3 cancer patients in my district. Right? So you starving the division, starving the THA, but you're not thinking about the health and well-being of your own Tobagonian, even your own family, or maybe they haven't thought about it.
Well, the thing about it, Secretary, money.
So we have to struggle.
Yes, but I think
to get it right.
Yes.
So when we getting it right, if we had to struggle, when we have to start at a minus in a division,
yes.
When we getting it right, when everybody die.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think, Secretary, as you said that financial refreshment and other amenities and prestige sometimes is like opium to the brain, you know. It clouds the minds of people, or there is a selective cloudiness. You understand? When people are out of office, you notice officials out of office? When they have to stand in a line, when they have to go and stand by Trinidad, well, some of them at least, you understand? And you ask yourself, this in-touchness that they now have, where was the in-touchness when you were in office representing people who empower you so to do? You understand? And it is unfortunate, and I think the fallout of that is a significant number of persons become disillusioned with the whole electoral process.
Correct.
They become disillusioned with the politics
and
and
so
on. Yes, you understand? People just, you know, and that is because of bad politicians, you know. So it's not the game, it's the players, you know. And I think when we were looking at the numbers from 2021, I was corrected yesterday that some 57% of the eligible voters went to the polls. So we have a 43% resource base there. People who ain't belong to nobody. Some of them new voters, some of them who, you know, and I think that part of what we're doing, and hopefully a program like this, is an evangelistic outreach. You know, it is an outreach to the people who listen, to say, listen, this is the reason why we think the time has come for there to be new representatives in the parliament.
Correct.
Your thoughts on that?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very good way of putting it.
Yes.
Because you wouldn't always be in the chair, but when you leave, you still have to face the system.
Of course.
Right? And you would want that you get good health care, you get good food.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But starting in the minus is evil and wicked.
Yes.
And I can't support that, something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Regardless of who it is. Right? I believe that both should work together. Right, to the better, you know, for the future of each island.
Yes.
So Tobago must stand up, just as Trinidad.
Yes.
We shouldn't have to always beg.
Right.
Right. Let's shape our own economy. It's only fair.
Of course. And thankfully, there is a conversation in the space, among many, that Tobago has come into its own. You know, when you're in a house, you grow up, you're in your parents' house and things, you have to adhere to the rules of the house, and then after a while, you know, and your parents will tell you, once you start to move, manage, look for your own place. You understand? And when an external entity control your money, control your resource, they control you.
They control you.
You understand? And that is our problem. We have come of age. You know, we've come of age, we want to run our own affairs, and that is reasonable. That is not something that is hostile. That is normal. And we have seen enormous potential on the part of Tobagonians. There are Tobagonian secretary that excel in every discipline you could think about. And they are enriching other jurisdictions, contributing to the development and of other nations and so on. And here we are in Tobago, right? All we are doing is turning out these skillful people, but they can't contribute into the Tobago space. And so the vote on the 28th is about shifting the paradigm. The vote on the 28th, I believe, there comes a time in the history of every nation, of every people, is a defining moment, you know. And it seems to me, I shudder to think about us missing this opportunity and what it will be like if we make the mistake and put back 2 PNM reps in this parliament that will, well, I don't even want to envisage that. You understand? But for Tobagonians to even consider making 2 PNM reps the area representative again, after you've given them two opportunities, two terms to look after your basic concerns. Basic concerns. You must be able to tell your colleagues there is an institution in Tobago called the Tobago House of Assembly that is constituted by law. There are some things that we call fifth schedule items that fall under the purview of the Tobago House of Assembly. You must be able to tell your colleagues, including yourself. You understand? And if you need to be going and representative, demonstrate that you have no respect for the people. How you want them fellas and them don't understand? So in fact, a lot of the discrepancy is because these two in Tobago are leading by example.
Correct.
You understand? Mm-hmm. They have never stood up to say that you can't. Could you imagine? You come to Tobago, right? You come to Tobago, you open a terminal, you invite people formally. Who does that? Invite people formally and insult them with your invitation? Mm-hmm. Insult them?
Don't even speak.
You understand? And calling Tobagonians names?
Yeah.
Man, listen,
not even names, not even the courtesy of human names. Animal.
Listen, I don't understand it. I mean, seriously, all of us have conceded that the former Prime Minister is perhaps one of the most abrasive leaders on the planet. Right? But people love who they love. You understand? We see, as in my vocation as a pastor, you know, sometimes young ladies come and bring a man and say that is the man they love. And when you see that, you wish you could hold them and choke them. And vice versa. You know? Right? But people love who they love. You can't stop people. So whoever leader, people go love the leader. You understand? So as much as, and we see it, you can't hide from that. We know that the former Prime Minister is an abrasive man. You'll say whoever come to him out.
But I'll make a point. I'll just say pastor, being
yes.
assemblyman.
Yes.
That, you know, growing up, a lot of young people would not have had a lot of the information that we do.
Right.
And being on the ground, a lot of people don't understand the fight the way you do.
Right.
And that is why the conversations need to continue beyond the politics. Mm-hmm. So that it doesn't seem like it's just about politics. Because it isn't. We need people to understand that, hey, we're really fighting for Tobago. Right. And it's a journey.
Sure.
And the journey starts with the two MPs in Trinidad.
Agreed.
So they don't only think that, okay, we're just voting because we want to send the two.
Right.
But they can see the connection of sending them down and what happens thereafter for you in Tobago. Right? And you know, not only you, but collectively as an island, how we could develop each other. Right, by our efforts. Right? A lot of times you get the feeling that people only vote for a thing. Mm-hmm. So I get this or I get that, and that's why they could jump out and say, you will get more food card. Right. And when you go down that road and you vote for the food card, that is all you're getting. Indeed. So after the food card, or you get it over time. That is what they call you just building a dependency.
Indeed. And you know, it is offensive, you know. It is offensive for you to be telling a grown up in 2025, vote for me because I will give you a food card. I mean, see, when you really think, and it speaks to how they perceive the population too.
According to somebody recently, that man disrespectful.
Yes.
But we're giving more food cards.
Yes, it is how they perceive the population.
Would he have accepted the food card? He over $100,000 a month. Mm-hmm. If we say to him as Prime Minister, hey, let me take away your salary.
Yes.
Or reduce it and give you a food card. He would have accepted that. We say the disrespectful.
Yeah, man. And the unfortunate thing, and maybe, Secretary, as you were saying a while ago, maybe there needs to be an ongoing campaign for people to have an appreciation for their worth as human beings in this place that we call Tobago and Trinidad. Your worth. There must have some kind of value. It has something. When people tell you, you must just give them one bad eye alone. You don't tell them nothing. When a man come to your house to tell you to vote for them and telling you that they will give you a food card or some nonsense like that, it means that they have very little respect for you. After this time, this is 2025 we're talking about. We are talking about, we want to know, how are we going to have predictability in the transportation between the islands?
Correct.
You understand? You're sitting at government, okay? The air bridge is under the purview of the government. What have you done? What? Every time we have a holiday, we still can't get the flights as we want. Every time we have Easter coming, where people, people can't move as they want to move. Every time we have great race, every kind of festival. We said it this week, Secretary, and I don't know how you're feeling about that. If you have not slept in the airport one time in your life, you have missed out on a critical part of the Tobago experience.
That is true. I slept there about 3 times.
You understand? And I talking about sleeping in the airport in 1985 and 86. 2025 man still sleeping in the airport. And you go tell me, and Caribbean has always been under the purview of the government.
Yeah.
You understand? So why must we vote you? Why? Because of course a lot we depend on movement of goods through the port. You understand? We have no port into it. That's the next thing too. They only have no port because they know once we have a port, that's it, you know? That's it. That's a game changer. So anything that they decide in Trinidad, if they decide that they boat and sailing today, they give you a 2-day notice, they don't understand the impact of that. None of them don't understand. They fully well know the impact on that, on the prices in Tobago, and all of that. So the thing is malicious in my humble view. It's malicious. They always seem to send the boat on dry dock when it had to have the highest traveling. Every year is the same thing. And you tell us that it cannot be rocket science, that you must know that there's a heavy movement of people around this time of the year. Okay?
And it's not that we can't do it, I remember when the boat stopped sailing, right? And TADCO was doing that poultry contract farming initiative. And all the different franchises on the island started reaching out to TADCO for the chicken. Right? They started reaching out to the local bread makers to take the bread. Right. So it's not that we can't do it,
Yes.
We could do it. It's only under emergency situations where we see our true potential.
Indeed.
And the future, given what's happening now, the Dragon gas deal and, things, you never know what could happen.
Indeed.
Right? Where you see Tobagonians rise to the occasion because the poultry contract farming initiative is not the division.
Right.
The division just guided farmers out there on how to produce. That is what we are trying to do, guide the farmers, not the division doing it, It's the farmers that we're trying to mentor into getting their own businesses.
That's an interesting point. Division. A businessman, I said it on the program already, but a businessman said to me, Pastor, them fast ferry could be like a double-edged sword, because it's whatever money we make in Tobago, we go and spend it in Trinidad fast. Stand 2.5 or 3 hours, boom, we spending money in Port of Spain. So the truth is, if he is right, that when they dangle this brand new fast ferry, because they know it is an essential service, but it's not luxury for the Tobagonian, that they're really saying, this boat really is to make sure you come down to Port of Spain quickly. Whatever money you make in Tobago,
bring it down.
Yes, it is not feeding into the Tobago economy.
But we could do a pilot project. I wish we had that type of authority, where if they had to come to Tobago to get everything that they wanted, and had to rely on the.
You want to see old mass and rebellion in Trinidad? Making joke.
So then.
Men that's one tire some pothole in some of the places, and then you want to see the whole. But it's an interesting point.
Yes, pilot project.
It's an interesting point.
Maybe sometimes people need to feel what you are feeling.
Indeed.
So come to Tobago and live the Tobago experience. And then when you go in the parliament, you say, hey, look how long it took me to get my documents when I came to Tobago. So now give Tobagonians that.
I'm telling you. Yeah, they need to go down by the airport from 5 to 10 in the morning and then get a flight until 4 p.m. in the afternoon. I was listening to one of these African leaders, and he was saying that that he told all his ministers and stuff that if you can't go for healthcare in the hospital in the country, you don't deserve to be a minister of health.
Smart man.
If you can't, you understand? And that philosophy about being in touch with your space, you understand, and having an appreciation for your space, it spoke volumes to me.
Very smart.
You know, to all of you that are listening to us here, the program is Who Feels It Knows It. And I'm sitting here with Secretary Nathisha Charles Pantin, and we're ventilating some matters that we think contribute or should contribute to the vote on the 28th. Right? We hope that the vote is an intelligent one. We hope that the vote has some point of reference in truth, something that is significant. Why in God's name must we vote back to a representative from the PNM that has not represented us on the basic issues that we're talking about? Basic issues now. We ain't asking them to burn down nothing.
Correct. And that brings me to the point. That is why you see everybody, people want to know, you like all these natural soap and you're always going and buy fish by the side of the road and, your vegetables by the side of the road. Is why I do that? Because I want to continue living the Tobago experience.
Right.
And every time I do something, I think how I could do this better.
Yes.
Or how I could market this person's, talent. Because if you don't feel it, you can't know it.
Who feels it knows it. Seriously.
That's why I do all these things to these people across the space.
Yes.
So that I indulge in it, so that I could speak about it.
Right.
And that's what all of us have to do, even if we, because they go down there and they have a different experience.
Sure.
So they might be,
in a bubble.
In a bubble. Right? But stay here and indulge.
Of course.
Right? Come and see what the vets have to put up with.
Yes. And don't be cosmetic about it. Don't be cosmetic. Don't because it's an election campaign that you hear there and everywhere and them kind of thing. Jeez. But thankfully, a significant number of Tobagonians are of the view that a regime change is imminent. A regime change is the only solution to the problem. It is the only solution. And that is not a vain thing. The point of reference is that we have afforded you enough time to say, okay, you are representing our views. What can you say? We still at the same place with the things that are pertinent to us.
And I would say the first phase, that would be the first.
Yes.
Because we still need to continue the conversation so that everybody on the same page.
Yes.
Right? You still have people fighting against their own freedom out there.
Indeed.
So the conversation continues.
Yes.
Because on having that understanding that, hey, we've been stymied through the efforts of central government, and understanding all these little things that add up. Why you're getting a food card, why they taking taxpayers' dollars and put it on the block. Why they're doing this? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because it's just to have you get your vote and then they disappear again.
Yes.
I've seen that in my village over time.
Yes.
They come, they paint up the place red flats all over the place.
Yes.
And when they don't get what they want, you can't reach them.
It's numbing, it's mind-boggling, the thing. And my hope is that especially the conversation we've been having, not just here, but wherever else, this program is a short stint, that we put enough information in this space that helps somebody to be illuminated.
Yes. And we're all not perfect,
Yes.
We're all growing and
of course.
we are at different stages of development.
Yes.
So that's why we have to all have that conversation, that continuous debate, to see how best that we could, fix this island fix the things that need the fixing.
Indeed.
Because we have to do it together.
Indeed. So that is why we're making all this fuss and dramatizing things, and we have these meetings to let the population know that the time has come for us to register a Tobago vote.
Yes.
You understand? A Tobago vote.
And try not to sell your integrity.
Yes, a
all
Tobago vote. Yes.
Don't sell your integrity.
Man.
Protect your integrity as the best way as you can.
This is a Tobago vote on the 28th. This is about Tobago's destiny. Yeah. We are determined to build a different kind of Tobago.
Yeah.
We're determined. You can't be in a place where everything, almost every service you want, you have to go to Trinidad for it. Almost every service.
Everything.
You understand? And the stuff that happened over there at Register General, the thing was going good. They just come and do some unilateral, just make a decision in Trinidad. And people had to go down to Trinidad for board paper and all kind of monkeyness, sending us back, must be 25 years.
Yeah. Even if you're not feeling well on a particular day, you could just jump in a car and go down the road. You go to Scarborough and get your documents.
Yes.
But now you have to wait
on
a flight to go to Trinidad. You have to pay transport. You have to get something to eat. Sometimes you don't make it back on time. Your flight delayed.
I'm telling you, man. I heard the representative for Tobago West, the PNM representative, saying that you can't go to the airport and just get a flight and that kind of thing. But and the thing is that this transportation, air transport in general, is an essential service for the Tobagonian. All these services, in large part, reside in Trinidad, right? So it must be expected that there are people, because you can't tell yourself that you're going to get sick today.
True.
You understand?
Yeah.
Some kind of matter may arise that you couldn't plan for last month.
Correct.
It don't take rocket science for you to figure that out. So for you to tell me that I can't just go on the airport and get a flight, me ain't going down that line. You understand? All the basic services that we need in Tobago find themselves residing in Port of Spain. So a man that just to get a license for your boats, to get a part for this, you can't get in Tobago, and whatever, you have to find a thing. So and it happens today. You can't plan for that.
Yeah, and you see, they have a reserve seat always. Eh?
Of course.
They have a reserve seat always.
Man, listen. Some of the things it is vexatious, I mean, it does lay a pressure.
Think about the perks that you getting alone. Yes. You have to think about before you got the perks.
Of course.
What used to happen,
of course.
And it's still happening.
Of course. Look at the condition of the Tobago space. You understand? We're trying to do some development. They're critical of everything that we're trying to do. I remember the same Tobago West candidate talking in the parliament and called all the THA reps miscreants. I ain't forgetting that at all. You know that miscreant? I ain't forgetting that. You understand? So you calling the representatives miscreants and coming for me to tell you to come to ask me to vote for you? You're mad? Listen, on the 28th of this month, every sensible thinking voter, person that is eligible to vote, must go to the polls and vote, because the people have no respect for you as a human being. Yeah. They have no respect for you. Names that they call you. Put your X by the anchor. It is that simple.
Yes. And you have to look carefully. Eh?
Yes.
Look at that.
There are several things.
Because there are so many things on the ballot paper.
Yes.
So you have to make sure that you look for the anchor.
Of course. You have to register your X, register your vote, man. And send a very clear message that we are adults. Yes. We are adults. You must not come here and insult us. We tired of that nonsense, and it had to stop.
And starving us of funds.
Of course.
But you want to feature all the things that can get done. You should be ashamed to feature it.
Listen to me.
Where the money coming from? It have to come from down there, sir. They have to just give us the allocation for it. So when you feature what is not done here, it also reflects on your ability to work with the Tobago House of Assembly. That's it. That's
they're so disrespectful and high-handed. I mean, you come and I listen. The thing is, just get me so vexed. This airport that they build on there, I have my own views and thing on the thing, right?
Don't forget to say that they save money. Save money by not
I'm telling you,
how much 40-something million.
That they say they save.
They save.
Where was the representative for Tobago West when the people that get displaced down there needed representation to be treated equitably? Yeah. Because I know there was a situation like that when the government acquired lands, but the man that they acquired from me was a PNM supporter. Yeah. And the kind of paper he get for his property, and that's some people still ain't getting money from that time, that way back when. You understand? Where were you? That is what the representation is all about. You understand? Joel Nazi Samson down there fighting up. I remember we go down there to when they were moving some of the people and fighting up. You understand? But Joel shouldn't be doing that work.
Correct.
You understand? That is the work for the area representative to say that, okay, government is doing this. Well, the thing about it, they didn't have no conversation with the Tobago also. The divisionary infrastructure that had the responsibility for building and those kinds of things, infrastructure work in Tobago. But they're so high-minded because the Prime Minister tell them that they are ministers of both Trinidad and Tobago. So forget about the Tobago House of Assembly, forget about the Tobago House of Assembly Act, forget about Schedule 5 items and all that. Go and do what the hell you want. And we're saying that this thing have to stop.
Yeah. Look at that. That's a prime spot, Every person that was removed from the area, they should have had some sort of commercial thing going on as well, wherever they are.
Listen,
You could compensate somebody for moving from that location. That's a prime spot in Tobago.
But here's the next thing, Secretary. Here's the next thing. Building large airport plants does not guarantee movement of bodies.
Correct.
You understand? You put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
You would have to have. It seems to me that people come to destinations, first of all, because it is attractive. And we know that Tobago is naturally attractive. I have had the opportunity to go to several of the English-speaking Caribbean countries and so on. Wow, I realize the time gone soon. Right? Listen, we have to stop, Secretary. So but the point is, the old terminal operates on 50% of its capacity. You saying or how much million people go past you there? 50% of the capacity.
Yeah.
You understand? And several of these airport plants around the region, not as large as this one here, correct, but they spend a considerable amount of money on promoting the destination. So first of all, it is attractive. Then you put some money into advertisement, and then the third one, access. Because if you have all that and you can't get no flight to come, you're still spinning up. Listen, the time has gone, and I'm getting a little bit hyper. So, Secretary, final words.
Well, I just want people to remember the symbol, right? Don't be confused about the symbol, right? The anchor, right? The Tobago is the symbol of the Tobago People's Party. Right, so we are championing everything Tobago. All right, and remember your two candidates, David Joseph Thomas, aka Thamo, and Joel Marcus Sampson, aka Nazi. Right, two remarkable gentlemen. Right, come out and give them your support. Indeed. Because supporting them, you are supporting Tobago, you are supporting you.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Secretary. Thank you for sitting in with us. For those of you who have been listening to the program, this is Who Feels It Knows It here on Radio Tambrin, uptown Scarborough, next to the salmon tree. And, we went a little bit, I got a little excited. It's the preaching thing in me. But we continue. We should be back again next Monday morning, same time. And I want to say to you that we expect to have the Tobago East candidate on Tuesday next week, and on Wednesday we expect to have the Tobago West candidate. So we continue the conversation. God bless you. Take good care. We gone. All right, guys. Thank you all for joining us. All right. Bye-bye. Boss.